Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados, everybody. We are live. We're celebrating my 5,000K subscribers. This amazing milestone. I didn't think we would make it quite this fast, but we're here, everybody, and we got a great panel for you. We got from Black Hop's Hair Trigger, My Hero Macadamia. We got an upcoming the Mandalorian. Tim Lim, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's a nice sunny day here in Texas.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Good to hear. Is it nice and warm?
Yeah. It's the South, so the weather fluctuates. Last week, it was like 56. As of yesterday, it was like 80. So you just never know what's going to happen down here.
Perfect. Well, here in the Philippines, it's always about 80 to 90 degrees. And but it's good for everything that's going on. It keeps the viruses away.
Hey, it's good for your skin, but it feels like you're in a sauna 24/7.
Yes, it does. All right. Also with us, we got the man with the plan, Perch. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, it's cold and rainy here, so weather time on the 5,000th show, but everything's going fine other than wet.
Well, hopefully you keep dry out there. And who else? We got Doug Ernst, the man that helped me start the channel. Of course, he didn't do all the legwork, but he did contribute. He gave me a lot of great pointers on how to get the channel started. Gave me a lot of great feedback. He's a huge reason why the quality of the content is so high, for all the great feedback he gave to me. And I really appreciate everything that you've done for me, Doug. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks for having me, man. And it's great to see what you've done with the channel. It's awesome. Very inspiring.
Thank you very much. And of course, the first person I ever asked if he would be on the channel, and he said yes almost immediately. He's been here with me since day number 1. What's up, Doc?
Oh, not too much. How's everything going with everybody this morning?
I think everyone's doing all right. So how's the quarantine culture going, Doc? What are you reading nowadays?
I'm just trying to get caught up on a lot of my back issues and all the other stuff that I have that's just been sitting in my short box to read. I read about 6 issues of Amazing Spider-Man last night. I finally got around to reading Jawbreaker's God King. I finally got around to reading that giant-sized Ecstatics from like 6 months ago. Handful of other things. Yeah.
Man, I just watched Roadhouse, and what else did I watch? Oh, I watched Point Break and Batman Under the Red Hood. It's been amazing. I've been watching some great movies and, of course, reading a lot of comic books. Perch, what are you binging these days? Are you just taking the weekends off?
No. I'm reading everything. I've been looking at the Silver Age lately and seeing some of those stories. They're insane and great to go back and binge and looking in deeper into the independent side of the world. Other than that, I've gone through all the streaming shows now. I'm down to the dregs of shows.
You're down to Runaways?
I went through Runaways, man. I've gone past that into the darker side. So
wow, I hear there's an episode of Vagrant Queen on YouTube.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe you can check that one out. You haven't got to the bottom of the barrel quite yet.
Yeah, I'm close.
So we know that Tim Lim is always on the art. So are you more productive right now, or are you just burning through art? I saw that you already finished up the Mandalorian, buddy.
Yeah, we finished the Mandalorian. We're already on the second campaign for Common America, and all that stuff is ready to go. So if anyone's listening and they are thinking about backing the campaign, everything is already boxed. We just have to print shipping labels. So that's essentially like a store. But we're already doing the pre-production on Black Ops 3. So I finished all the production artwork. The covers are being rendered as we speak. And the countdown just begins. It's a 72-page book, but it's at least 64 pages of story. So I just do a page a day. So I'm just as productive as ever. I took a week off between campaigns just to work on other projects, but my productivity has not halted.
That is good to hear. So we got books incoming. You just started your Indiegogo campaign, correct?
Yeah, we just launched it on Wednesday. So we shipped all of our Kickstarter books on Monday, and people have been posting photos of those coming in. So if you haven't gotten yours, please be patient. It's going to take about 10 business days because the USPS is a little bit slow. They're 24 or 48 hours behind their predicted estimate for shipping. Normally, our books are delivered 3 days after shipping, but it seems like the bulk of them arrived yesterday, which was 5 days. And that's only people in the South and Midwest. I don't think we've had any confirmation of people on the East or West Coast yet. So our tracking estimate is having most delivered by Wednesday of next week.
That's exciting, man. I can't believe that you had the entire campaign done. You ran it on Kickstarter, which you'd never done before, and you're actually fulfilling it like within like 20, 25 days of being complete.
Yeah, we did it. Kickstarter is I think if you're a first-time user, it's 14 days is when they definitely send you your funds. So basically, they won't send it to you before that 14-day mark. And I know going forward, like when I was helping Doug with Soul Finder, I think we have a very similar, like 100% on-page philosophy when it comes to crowdfunding. And so we don't like to procrastinate. We want to make sure that we have all of our things together before we launch anything. And that's more of our peace of mind, because there's nothing more infuriating than being late on anything. You want to make sure you can keep your deadlines and keep people happy.
And that is why people should definitely be looking to Tim Lim and Doug Ernst for their crowdfunded comic needs, because you know you're going to get a quality product, and probably you're going to get a little bit early, and that's awesome. I do want to say thank you very much to Ron B for the super chat, just stopping in to say quick congrats, great content. Thank you so much. You've been here with us for a long time. Really appreciate you supporting the channel. It means the world to us. Without people or without fans like you tuning in each and every week, you know, obviously we couldn't be here. So thank you very much, Ron. I really appreciate that. So Doug, you know, now that Tim has went to Kickstarter route, are you going to do that with your Soul Finder sequel?
Yeah, there was something that I was mulling over actually during the original Soul Finder. I was like, can you essentially, like, not in a bad way, but like quote unquote double dip, where you just tweak it a little and then do both campaigns? And I wondered, like, if there was a way you could do that, or if you would get in trouble, and I just didn't have time to look into it. And then months later, I don't know, when I was talking to Tim, and then he's like, yeah, I was looking into Kickstarter. I think I'm going to do Kickstarter. And so basically what I have done, and I admit to doing this, is essentially like watching what Tim does and then saying like, okay. And then he like basically goes through all the gauntlet first. And then he tells me like how to get through it, sort of like the Indiana Jones thing or whatever. If I was coming through second, and he went through all the obstacles or whatever, and then I know what to look out for, so I don't get my head chopped off.
You're using a strategy guide.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Tim's my strategy guide.
Play it on easy mode.
Yep.
No, that's exciting, because you know it's there is obviously crossover between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but they do have distinct audiences, and there's no reason to limit your reach. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I figured if there was a way to do it that was ethical, you know, you don't want to just give people the exact same thing and just maybe tweak it a little bit, and everyone goes away happy, then why not expose myself to the largest audience possible with this particular book or any book?
All right. So Doug, I think I know the answer to this, but maybe the viewers don't. What is the status on the Soul Finder sequel? Do you have a name yet? Can you give it to us?
Yes, it's Soul Finder Black Tide, and Matt Weldon is doing the art on this one, and he's already been sending in sketches. I've 15 sketches so far. I'm sure he's probably got another batch. The guy is lightning fast, and once all the sketches are done and he feels comfortable with all of that, I feel very comfortable. Then he's going to go through and basically refine things. There was a ship that he turned in the other day, and I was like, this is awesome. And he's like, oh, well, I mean, it's got to be a lot more regal than that. I got a lot of work to do. I was like, okay. So
that was the rough draft.
I have because basically my position this time around is I'm more of just like helping Doug with editorial, just when he needs me for odds and ends. And we have a Dropbox folder where all this art goes into. So when Doug says sketches, he means like the layouts of the pages, like basically the pencil work. And I think it was page 14. It was just like this Spanish galleon. And I was like, holy cow. And I was like, I can already hear Matt Weldon. It's like, geez, guys, it's not my best work, but you know, I know it could use some polish. I'm like, Matt, just put this into Photoshop, adjust levels, make it look like it's inked, and this is already finished artwork.
That's awesome. So that's really exciting. It sounded like you were able to get the first draft in, and you've already gone all the way through the editing process. So when do you think you're gonna? Are you planning on doing that like this summer, or maybe is it gonna be in the fall?
So once Matt is finished, then I gotta talk to Brett R. Smith. I know he said that he wants to do the next one, but he always has a crazy schedule. So it's really a matter of time of saying like, Brett, I want you back, and I know you said you want to be back. So how can we figure this out? What's the timeline here? And I will do anything within my power to bring Brett back as long as he can be. So I'm very flexible with the timeline. I would just like it to be this year for sure.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's exciting. So last year at this time, I think you had scripted out Demon's Match, but you hadn't even delivered your first comic. Now you're on the sequel already. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's I was saying on Twitter yesterday, it's a weird but a good pressure, because the last thing I want is to let anybody down. I mean, I didn't want to on the first one, but now that there's people are like, oh, I can't wait for the second one, I really loved it. And so I would just feel horrible if I let people down that were really excited about it.
Yeah, and Just Some Guy, he put out a pretty amazing review of that comic book, and got you a lot of eyes on it. It sounds like everybody was really, really happy.
Yeah, and Just Some Guy, I know it sounds weird. I gotta be careful how I say this, but Just Some Guy is an atheist, and so in some way it feels good that he liked it as much as he did, because that matches what I was trying to do. I wanted to just tell a really good adventure story, a really good sort of mystery story, gets into horror and all that sort of stuff. It's got its roots in my faith, but it's not beating people over the head with it in any way. And so for somebody who's a secular dude to like it that much, that was pretty cool.
It's awesome. All right. Hey, Perch, are you alive? People are wondering if you're still there.
I'm here. Why would I interrupt these guys? They're masters. You know what they're doing. I'm just happy. I mean, I'm glad to be on the show, but I'm glad to listen. I think this is an insight into people making a comic, and there's some pretty cool stuff coming up. So I'm here.
Yeah, it's great. It's like Tim has like almost the perfect game plan. You put it out there. By the time you're ready to launch, the comic book is ready. That way, when the campaign is over, when the funds hit your bank account, you're sending things the very next day. That's amazing. It's like a machine now, isn't it, Perch?
Yeah, I mean, it is, and it's unusual. I mean, I think you guys are talking about like, oh, this is just the thing we do, and it's all good, but it's unusual. And I really liked, I think, what you said earlier, Tim. It's putting something out on time, or getting ahead of things before you start the process rolling. It's as much about delivery, sure, but it's also about your own sanity. I mean, nothing is worse when you're trying to put out some kind of creative good endeavor than feeling like you're behind the 8 ball of your own making, that you promise something and you have to the quality just drops when you're working that way. So I applaud you guys. I think you do it the right way. You put stuff out. You build a lot of trust into this whole business. So I think it's great.
Well, thank you. And I think in this industry, especially, deadlines tend to be everything. I forgot, like, you've heard it said and quoted by different people, but it's basically all about the ability to make deadlines that can make or break any career, but especially in the arts, especially with comics, where timing is precarious as it is. I know that one of the insights that Doug had after Soulfinder was like he didn't realize just how many moving parts have to work in synchrony just for one thing to happen, like one publication. But it's like, yeah, it's actually this delicate balancing act, and you want to make sure that everything is calibrated and moving together, or else it can all fall apart. So just, you're right, for my sanity, if nothing else, I don't like being behind the 8 ball. So I'm very happy with the way we've been doing things so far.
It was one of those things where we had a really nice buffer, and then randomly Tim emails me and he's just like, so the gold foil on the book. And then so there was a little bit of a snafu with the gold foil. And he's just like, so they got to basically do X, Y, and Z. And that delayed our book by, I don't know, I want to say like a week and a half or 2 weeks or something. But we had scheduled up to, I think, actually a couple months of leeway. So it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, you never know when some sort of gold foil bizarreness is going to happen to you, and it's going to push everything back by a couple weeks.
Yeah, I remember Tim's Trump Space Force project. Actually, he ended up not fulfilling on time because there was a snafu with the patch maker of all things, right?
Yeah, that was the irony about it. Was we had given ourselves, I think, a 2-month leeway, and Brett got his colors in kind of in the worst case scenario, but we were like, no, that's still fine because the book is finished. Then we got them printed, and the books arrived, I want to say the first week of November, and we had a November estimated date. So I said, okay, sure, we're still in this window. But then it dawned on me, the first order we put in was for the patches. And so I thought, okay, well, they must be ready anytime now. Long story short, I used a mom and pop manufacturer because I support local businesses. The reality was that they took on a project that they were not prepared for. And I don't want to put fault on them or necessarily fault on me, because I feel like trusting a small business with capital, I think in and of itself is ideologically good. But the reality of it is that if you take on something that you're not prepared for, then you're going to run into problems. So after delay, ironically, I went to like the big patch manufacturer where I was like, hey, here's the problem that we have. We need like 1,500 of these things. What can you do for me? And so they gave me a very good price, very good shipping time. But then I just realized like we are going to be behind schedule. So I asked Brett, do we wait until the patches come in, or do we go ahead and mail these things out? And Brett gave me that sage advice. He's like, if you promise them a November date and we're already heading into December, you got to get those books out ASAP. So we were 3 weeks late. I think actually the first person to receive their book was Captain Cummings. And I think that was on Christmas Eve. So we were late by 3 weeks if you count the whole month of November. So that was a lesson to me. Don't only get the book ready, get all of your product ready before you do anything. And even for Common America, I was scared to death because our body pillow covers, they're made and manufactured in the United States. So I thought, okay, well, that's hunky dory. The U.S. Postal Service, though, there was that delay that we were talking about. So I was sweating bullets because on the tracking, it always said in transit. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is not good. It's stuck in a warehouse somewhere. And then lo and behold, the FedEx guy just knocks on my door and says, oh, they're here. So even for this campaign for Indiegogo, I'm ordering all that stuff preemptively and making sure that we have a buffer.
Nice. So I do want to say thank you very much to Ryan Wilson for the $9.99 super chat. Congrats on the milestone. Thank you very much. Couldn't have done it without you and all the wonderful viewers. Any news on when we could see new comics? Here's a gift. Perch, what's the news? It sounds like they're hoping for like maybe June.
I think late June, July is probably what we're looking at in a best case scenario, unfortunately. Unless you're maybe ordering from some of these other guys that are getting them to you on the side, but certainly in the mainstream, you're looking at late June, July.
Yes, of course, unless you want a copy of Common America, available right now on Indiegogo, which you'll get as soon as the campaign's over, right?
Yes, absolutely. Normally Indiegogo, whatchamacallit, depending on who you are, your funding can get sent to you sooner rather than later. So yeah, absolutely.
So Doug, are you having withdrawals from comics? Are you using this time to kind of catch up?
Actually, I'm doing research for the next Soul Finder. Actually, maybe the next 2 Soul Finders. So I've been reading books, The Saints Who Saw Hell by Paul Figman, and The Devil is Afraid of Me. It's a collection of Father Amorth's stories about his life. He passed away not too long ago. And there's another book by Fulton J. Sheen called Lord, Teach Us to Pray. So I'm reading a lot of religious books, basically, and then I have to get into some Vietnam stuff after that.
All right, so Atomic Hound is saying, I'm prepping to go on a bad comic binge. All right, I got some pointers for you. You want anything by Bendis at DC Comics. You want to read Tom King's Batman run. You want to read Avengers versus X-Men. That is a killer crossover event. What else should we read? Civil War 2? Doc, what else should he read if he wants to read some bad comics?
Anything written by Tom Taylor.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. You're going to love that one.
Yeah, that's some... all new Wolverine. X-Men Red.
Anything by Mariko Tamaki.
Yes.
Oh yeah, those are
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Has anybody else got some suggestions for Atomic Hound if he wants to read some bad comics?
You know what? I got a suggestion of bad comics that turn to good comics.
No, it's not that is against the spirit of what he's doing there, Doc.
All right.
I think if you go to the late '90s, I mean the second half of that, and you look at a lot of what Marvel was throwing on the wall, there's some crazy, terrible comics there. You got
Ultimatum by Jeff Loeb. That's a good one.
Yeah, Ultimatum is a perfect example. Ultimates 3 is I mean there's a lot there's stuff, there's plenty out there to see, but you can see some experimentation, turning the Wasp into some kind of bug woman. I mean there's all kinds of stuff out there.
You get to see some actual twincest.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect.
Oh boy.
So, talking about some bad comics, Doug, I don't know if everybody knows this, but you didn't really start out as a YouTuber. You actually had a blog where you were basically reviewing your favorite comic book, Amazing Spider-Man, and that kind of turned into, you almost became a watchdog over the comic book industry as far as the behavior of the professionals that were in there, specifically with Dan Slott, but it certainly expanded out to cover a lot of other professionals. And then, you kind of started up your YouTube channel right about the same time as Diversity in Comics. I Love Comics with Anglin, I believe Captain Cummings. Was there another one in there I'm missing?
Captain Frugal.
Yeah, Captain Frugal. You guys kind of all started at the same time, and you kind of became known within the comic industry as like a watchdog, someone that was giving the consumers the information about what was actually going on and taking some of these creators to task. In the last couple of years, things seem to get noticeably better, especially on the part of Marvel Comics. But that seems to have all come undone over the last 3 months or so, especially within the crisis that we're at right now. And I don't know what her problem is, but Heather Antos, the new senior editor at Valiant Comics, is really jabbing fans. It seems like on a daily, weekly basis now, saying the worst fans in the world are Americans, saying that no comics professional needs to work in customer service, all kinds of crap. What do you think? What is she thinking, or is she not thinking?
Yeah, there's sort of this weird circadian rhythm to their unprofessional behavior that happens. A lot of it correlates with election cycles, the midterm elections and then the presidential elections, national level. So that's one element of it. Heather Antos, her natural personality, she's like to always do this thing where she instigates people, she pokes the bear. I think it was actually last Easter she started making bizarre resurrection, some joke or whatever on Easter. And then when people logically get annoyed with her, then she plays this, what? Me? Like, why are so many people attacking me? So there's that. And then obviously the perfect storm with the pandemic going on and its effect on the comic book industry. I think people are on edge and looking for an outlet, and they're home and they have a lot of time on their hands. So these people that spent 24 hours on Twitter doing stupid stuff to begin with, it's like they've heightened their time online, and they're even more rabid.
It's kind of weird. They're kind of almost using her as like a spokesperson for the brand, Doc. What are your thoughts on that? I can't believe it. Did they not realize what a lot of the perception is of her within the community?
Honestly, I have no idea, because it's like their PR people. It doesn't matter what company it is. Their PR people pick the one person that they should never put on camera and then stick them on camera. Marvel did it with Jordan White a couple of weeks ago. Valiant's doing it with Heather Antos. DC used to do it with Didio. The one person that's going to piss off everybody is the person they stick out there. And I don't know if they're dumb or if they all believe that whole, controversy creates cash thing. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's really weird. Percy, do you have any explanation for it? I know you're a little bit closer to the, maybe some of the insiders within the industry.
But I mean, it's a case of this business is not big enough to have people act like kind of the super celebrities they are. I mean, this behavior is very much kind of the spoiled brat type of environment that you get out of media. And the difference between this and, say, a pro athlete that makes millions of dollars a year is that there isn't millions of dollars a year in this industry. It's tiny. So you get somebody who's like the celebrity in their own mind, and they're treated as a big fish in a very tiny pond. And for some people, they're humble and they respect where they came from. They're just glad to be here. And others, it's an excuse to kind of just be as crazy as they want. I mean, this, most of the people are creative people. I mean, Tim and Doug are very creative people, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen plenty of other of your peers or other people in this industry who lose their mind when they are in this field. And this is just an example of that. It's people who are they don't know how to control themselves. They never did. And now they're thrust into this almost authority role, and they run their mouth, and they get plenty of likes and pats on the back from other people in the community. The problem is it doesn't translate to sales. It doesn't translate to healthy attention. It just kind of feeds the ego for the moment and keeps the ball rolling. But this would never work in a real industry with money.
Yeah, it's weird. Tim, did you see the one thing where she was like lauding herself because she's not in comics for the money, and it's like, you're the problem that they're not making money because you forgot to make comics that people want to buy.
Yeah, and there's this important distinction. People like, for example, Doug Ernst or me, it really isn't about the money because we're hobbyists. This is not something we do, quote unquote, professionally as a vocation. The stakes are a little bit different for someone who isn't a vocation, because then your priorities shift. It's almost like the responsibility and burden to bear should be greater, because your bottom line is you do have to generate a profit. That doesn't mean that you perform like, woke behavior or whatever, or insert politics into your books to try and gin up unnecessary drama to fuel sales. But I think that the proof is in the pudding when you actually are able to create a solid product and conduct yourself professionally. Then they will come. Like the people who will buy your books will be there. So I don't know. I don't see that as a convenient out for a lot of people, because that's what they're there for. That's why they get hired. That's why they get paid, and ultimately that's why they get fired. So I think that delineation is a really important one to make.
So do you guys think that she has any concept as like a senior editor at a company like that, when she goes out there and she turns off readers and maybe, she gets 100 people to buy less Valiant Comics, for a month or whatever, but those numbers pile up over time. And eventually it's not just her she's affecting. It's the colorist. It's the letterer. It's the kid that works in the office. It's the intern. Ends up it's trickle down because she's at the senior position, but her actions and her decision making, if it drives consumers away, ends up affecting everyone's bottom line, and she essentially is keeping everyone poor. I
don't think that some people don't have a grasp of that, and I think it was because I was listening to a video, I think with Perch and you, and it was very enlightening to me, because it was talking about in retail, like shops that go out of business, and comic book stores in particular, and things like over ordering. And I think there's this like misconception that, for example, the big two, they basically force you to buy like X amount of books, and they don't force you to do anything. It's still your choice in terms of the overhead you control. But some people, regardless of them knowing that they're not going to sell, if they're the true believers, no pun intended, and let's say there's a Captain Marvel book coming out, they might be like, yes, Queen Slay. And they're just like, yes, I'm going to buy 3,000 copies. They don't sell, but man, this book is great. Well, as a business owner, you're taking the financial responsibility of doing that. But the comic industry tends to be pretty cloistered, and it tends to be very tight knit. There's a lot of like, not nepotism, but a lot of cronyism that runs around. And it's such a pejorative word, but even like in our network of friends and colleagues and stuff, there's a degree of that going around because of who we recommend. So for example, like, Doug Ernst needs a cover artist. I happen to know one. I introduce them. They in turn introduce other people. So we tend to be very, tight knit in terms of who we know. So you just extrapolate our personal experience to the higher ups. And it's not really a shock that you can have someone who has bad behavior, and they might be like off one company, but they're hired the very next day by another one. Why? Because they know someone who can make that call and get them to where it needs to be. So climbing that ladder and jumping from position to position with no seeming repercussions is not too far-fetched. They don't. It's like they don't really care about the money. It could be like, yeah, you're off this company because you didn't generate anything, but then this other company is like, oh my gosh, like I need to stand up for this person, so come on, work with me. Whereas I think in any healthy business, they'd be like, that person just lost you a huge chunk of your revenue. Like, you might want to rethink that. I know you're friends, but this is not the best decision to make.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, well, for one thing, there's just not enough money for the kind of scrutiny that it probably needs. If this business was doing 10x the revenue, you would have people paying a lot more attention to stuff like this, but it's not. So a lot of this skates by. But the other problem we have here is that the comic industry as a whole, see if I can explain as well, is it doesn't really understand or realize or has a way to track the middle. And what I mean by that is you have a very small group of audience who might say, as you said, oh, I'll buy anything Captain Marvel. I don't care what's going on. I just buy empowerment. Got to buy it. And then you have another group that's also relatively small and saying, this is terrible. I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to boycott it. And they're vocal about that. You see those people. And it may seem like both those groups are large to people on Twitter, but they're actually quite small, relatively speaking. The big group is a group in the middle that just silently either buys or doesn't buy. And the comic industry really fails to understand what that group is thinking and doing. You can see it over time if you look at trends, but by and large, they ignore it. So many of these people we're talking about within comics, they'll look at the positive comments only. They'll dismiss the negative comments entirely, and they'll just keep doing their thing. And the people who are negative will say, why aren't they listening to us? Well, because, all things considered is small. But nobody is really digging to try and figure out this bulk of the comic audience, which is making these decisions, which is often turned off by these things. But rather than saying anything, rather than tweeting it, rather than doing videos or whatever, they just don't buy. And so you see this decline, and nobody really recognizes that audience. Comic store retailers do, they see it, but it's not getting up to the publishers. And with that mechanism broken, people just keep doing what they do.
I think another issue is that gets back to having these ideologues in positions of power where they've essentially inoculated themselves from criticism because they feel that the people that are criticizing them, they'll go think of all the political talking points, the bumper sticker talk that they throw out at you, how you're such a horrible person. They're like, we don't need to listen to this person because he's a bad person. He's actually evil. And then they see the middle customers, the silent majority that you're talking about, as like projects that they could change. It's like the girlfriend who goes out with the bad boy and she's like, I could change him. He's a project. If I just say the right things to them, he'll understand. He'll get super woke if I just say the right things. And so having these ideological blinders on prevents them. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy sort of way from doing what they have to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of this overall behavior, it looks at, well, we can do anything because we're not seeing they're not seeing really a direct loss in sales. But at the same time, shouldn't their goal to be increase them? Like, does this sell a single extra comic? No. I don't think anybody can argue that any of this behavior would sell a single extra comic. But that as Perch pointed out, there's that large portion in the middle that just doesn't say anything and just goes away. And that's who they keep losing.
You know what's kind of weird? I don't know if you even know this one, Doug, but you remember Max Bemis, correct?
Yes, Max and I have a history.
Yeah,
he made me a villain in Moon Knight.
Yeah, he told all the customers to yes, he's bi, but the B is in LGBTQ. He told customers basically to feast on his hindquarters, and then he puts you into Moon Knight as a villain. Well, guess who Heather Antos brought into Valiant Comics to write the new Savage comic?
So you're telling me there's a chance I might show up again?
You're going to be a villain in Savage, and that's the people that she brought over. When she was brought over to Valiant Comics, they said specifically she was going to have her Rolodex of contacts. So she's brought in like Max Bemis, Mags Asagio. Who else she brought in? B. Claymore, Cullen Bunn. He was probably one of the better ones, I guess. But you look at the creators that she's brought over, and it's all the people that don't sell comics or treat people like garbage. One of whom actually put you, a critic, into his comic as a Nazi.
Yeah, there was a Moon Knight 194, I think, is when it started, and I think it ended around 198, something like that. That there's a couple people that have asked me over the past couple of years if I could just like autograph that issue for them. So, and I am willing to do that. I am totally willing to do that. But yeah, it's like Tim was saying, there's this network, this poisonous network of individuals, and they all believe in their hearts. Actually, probably at the deepest levels, they know they're pretty gross, but they all seem to believe, at least on a surface level, that they are right, and everyone else is a bad person. And eventually, if we all just get together into a super team of weirdos, then we'll somehow raise sales, even though the history suggests it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, as I said in the comments, she basically brought over a who's who of who cares.
Yeah, it was all the people that Marvel had kind of let go. There's some of them still there. Obviously, VIL is there. She was on Livewire and stuff, but she didn't sell Livewire. That thing had a huge, I think it broke the record for the most comics they ever sold. By issue 4, it was down to like 4,500. And, Perch, this, if you look at the sales numbers for Valiant Comics, just compared to like 18 months ago, they're down like 60%.
Well, I mean, Valiant, it doesn't have a strong platform. It's not a solid kind of mid-tier publisher. It's dropped quite a bit, and it was dropping before any of this as well. So it does need something to come back up. I mean, I guess this is a strategy. But like Tim was saying, you bring over your Rolodex, you bring over your contacts, you bring over the people you know, and often you get hired for that ability. Antos, being a senior editor, was hired for this, just like Bendis when he came over. Part of why his deal was the way it was, that he could bring talent. So there's this belief, at least at the company, that hey, we need this talent. This is going to make us money. This is going to help sell us books, and in they come. And it is a small industry. It's a very circular industry. So there aren't enough people looking at the numbers and saying, oh, wait a minute, this Rolodex you have doesn't matter to me. It's not a useful Rolodex. So. But it does work out over time. The frustrating part for us as fans is that this often takes a decade to work itself out. And that's just a long time to wait through this stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of companies, a lot of comics don't survive in that process. Yeah,
because I'm a huge Valiant fan. I basically read everything really from 2012 to 2017. And really, Valiant was the first comic book or comic publisher ever to hire Robert Venditti for an ongoing series. They, Matt Kent got one of his really big breaks after Mind Management on there. Jeff Lemire was the Bloodshot writer for many years. Justin Jordan got his big break there, whether you like him or not. So that used to be kind of the go-to place for new talent to come in, because Dinesh Shamdasani and Warren Simmons had a good eye for talent, and they were able to cultivate talent. And now it's the boneyard for dead careers when you can't hack it anywhere else. You just go to Valiant, and no one reads your comics anymore.
Well, there's one other factor I feel compelled to bring up, and it's also a cash issue. I mean, these people are willing to work for less. Don't get me wrong, that is a factor here. These are, quote unquote names. I mean, and that's part of the value to Valiant to say, hey, here's Max Bemis from Marvel's Moon Knight. Marvel, you recognize Marvel, and when if there is going to be a Moon Knight movie ever someday, then they'll push that. Survive. Assuming he survives that long at Valiant, but he's willing to work for less. And you talk to artists, you talk to people who were big names at one point, and it's Moneyball at the publishers. They're trying to get more for less, and this is one way they do it.
Yeah, but the way they used to do it was they would bring in like new creators that hadn't made their name, and that's why they were less. But now there's going to be anything new or exciting like Venditti did or Kent did and all these things, because it's just the old drags. And it just sucks, because Valiant used to just was the best comic universe.
They produce a lot of good stuff, but it is the big companies, the big two, and mostly Marvel, will go and find new people for cheap. And then those new people for cheap make cheap money, and then they move on to Valiant or other places through these networks. They struggle to establish a good connection, and then they get continual jobs, but the rate doesn't really go up. And it's just, and editors are rewarded for being able to manage a portfolio for less.
What kind of stinks is that these people are a little bit like Mysterio. They're great at creating these illusions, these boogeymen that don't really exist. There's so many problems within the industry in general, or there's reasons for why. But they put forth these specious arguments where they'll be like, well, if you look at newspapers, if you look at magazines, their readership is going down too. So we're just like them. And it's like, no, you're not just like them. And if you look at the rate of attrition and the rate at which people are running away, running for the doors, it's not the same. And there's reasons for that. And so a lot of the times they just love throwing out red herrings and illusions that they might sound interesting on the surface level, but when you dig into the numbers, that's why I really like numbers guys. It reveals a different story.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this way. I think the thing is, people saying, oh, well, we're losing business because, retail is dying or newsprint is dying or these things are going away. So, of course, the numbers are going to be lower. And thus, of course, we have to spend less money. And, of course, we're going to go to my network here that, it's got 4 people living in an apartment because that's all they can afford. Sure, all makes sense. But what's weird about that is if you look at other industries, if you go to anything in technology and you get startups, nobody is going, hey, we're hoping that this new software we're building, can make $1 million in 20 years. Nobody does that. You don't set your goal that way. You set your goal of we're going to change the world. We're going to make a bunch of cash and we're going to get rich. You want to get rich. In this business, there's almost this, we're coming in with defeat from the beginning. We're coming in saying, this is never going to be anything because it's small. So we might as well have fun and hire our friends and just kind of pool the money as long as we can to get fired and go to the next sucker. It's just nobody's really playing to get rich, and they need to.
It's been kind of a weird few weeks. There's something else. There's been some weird bedfellows, of sorts. Doc, did you see that? Like Donnie Cates called into EVS's live stream. They had like a 10-minute conversation.
I saw that it happened. I didn't bother to care because I literally have been happy to pretend that Pie Boy doesn't exist for a while now. We'll wait for the next thumbs down. But no, I saw that it happened. And that's fine. I mean, hey, if they want to work out their beef, whatever their beef is, that's great. It still doesn't sell any comics, and it still doesn't address the fact that Donnie's a douche to customers. So how is this fixing anything?
Well, it makes me think that some of these pros, or even a pro like Donnie, who has a lot of sales, and when he relaunches Thor or Guardians of the Galaxy, that the profile of that book immediately gets lifted just by his name being on the title because he sells comic books right now. It makes me think that he's uneasy about the current market. Maybe, is his job going to be there? Does he need to go into crowdfunding? So maybe he should mend some fences. Is that the way you kind of took it, Tim?
I don't know how really I did take it because everyone is saying that a lot of these pros like entering YouTube is this kind of like it's this warning light that kind of went off where it's like to ameliorate their situation, especially in light of current events, that they have to actually go out and actually put on the public face. I don't know if it's because of a direct response to things that have been going on in the industry so far, or just a response to what's happening with regards to the pandemic. My inclination is to think of the latter. I really don't think that they care about the former. I think that someone like a Donnie Cates, I think he cares about his fans, but I don't think he cares too much about his critics. That being said, I've talked to many people who have met him in person. They think he's a nice guy. So I'm not trying to disparage him or his reputation or anything like that. The fact that he called into that particular show makes me wonder if he knew what he was actually getting into, because I think the advice I would have given him is don't do it. But he did. So either he was braver to dredge those waters than I would have been were I in his position, or he actually did not know what he was getting himself into.
I'm leaning more towards him not knowing what he was getting himself into, because
it seems like it was accidental. He didn't realize he was going to be on the show live. There was some weird, maybe some butt dialing, an accidental dial, and hang up, and he called back, kind of thing. But welcome to the channel, Brian Ball. Second time on the Comics Aficionados. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm doing great.
Brian,
3 times is the streak.
Yeah, this is awesome. So how you feeling? Are you hungover? You doing all right?
Oh no, I'm unfortunately sober this morning. I've been working some extra long hours. Well, yeah, I got like my normal job that I'm doing, and then I have a crossover, a spinoff, another crossover, and some bunch of other stuff to write and get my final issue done. So a lot of project management going on my end.
So you're working on issue 7 of Rags?
Yes, I'm trying to see if we can get 50 plus pages done in less than a year.
Nice. So have you got anybody else coming on with the projects? I know you're working on, is it Sailor Rogowski? Is that going to be like a one-shot or something?
No, it's going to be its own little spin-off thing.
Man, so the Rags team and the Rags franchise is getting bigger.
Yeah, crazy.
Mm-hmm. So last time you were on the show that you decided to unveil a new product on your newAgeNinja.com website, correct?
Did I? I don't remember.
Panties.
Yeah, the thong the panties.
Oh, the panties. Yeah.
How did it go over? Did that inspire sales?
No, it didn't. Unfortunately, I couldn't get them branded the way I wanted, but I did find a nice batch that I could sell. It's just not Rags branded, so I'm still working on that.
Damn. All right, Doug. If you want to get Soul Finder panties, out there, you're gonna have to work a little bit harder because Rags here or Brian's having a hard time finding a product.
Yeah, there's a scene in Soul Finder Black Tide where Father Redder is wearing panties, so I might have to hit him up on that.
Perfect.
Garters?
You'll see.
Okay. So how's everybody?
We are doing good. Oh wait, we do have a super chat. So SSJ Future Gohan, aka Josh, congrats on 5K West. Here's to 10K. Been keeping busy during the quarantine reading Chuck Dixon's Nightwing. Man, that is a great choice. Chuck Dixon's Nightwing is really great. Of course, he had a lot of great runs on Batman. And Robin Year One is probably my favorite Chuck Dixon story ever in that franchise. And thank you very much for the support, Josh. I really appreciate it. So, Purge, did you see the random call-in from Donnie Cates on EBS? Did you have any thoughts on that?
I think there was some miscommunication there about what was happening. I think that, look, I've met Donnie Cates. I think he is a nice guy in person. I think that there's like many things in social media. I think a lot of the creators don't necessarily know how to deal with it, and are I think there's a misunderstanding about how to act. I don't think anybody's really helping them out by and large. Not that they should. You should have just good common sense on your own. But I do think Cates is genuine in the sense where he's trying to put money toward shops and promote them. And I don't think that's a weird act. Like some people have said, it's a smoke screen to cover up bad behavior. I think he generally does that. And I said this because he's been pro shop for a long time. That doesn't excuse kind of the weird things he said or the bad things he said. But I don't think I think that's legit. I do think that right now in this current moment, a lot of creators are scrambling, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. And a lot of people who had kind of cushy office jobs that were built through a network and haven't had to hustle necessarily, or finding their world upended and not sure what's going to go on, not sure if those jobs are going to be there. So I do think you're seeing a lot of flailing. I think you're seeing a lot of people question, hey, why is it that this one guy can go on YouTube and say, crazy, outlandish things, and we've been calling him a Nazi for a year and he's still there? Why? How could he still be there? He's supposed to be kicked out by now. It's the way the industry's always worked. And so I think you're seeing people say, well, should I get a YouTube channel? Maybe I need some of that money. And, it's all going to kind of be a big disappointment in some sense because, you make your channel, you put out one video a month because that's the pace you're used to. And it's like, oh, that doesn't make any money. So, I think there's a rude awakening for a lot of people that continues to roll. At the end of the day, what makes you money and an audience is hard work and having a commitment and trust with the people you're talking to, and that's what it takes. And you don't get rich overnight, and you build an audience, and there's no real shortcut to that. And I think some people are going to discover that maybe the hard way.
You know, that is one of the funny things. I see a lot of people creating YouTube channels, and I think that's great. I think the more comic related content that's out there that can help bring in an audience and bring the wonderful medium to new readers is amazing. But I think that you might be underestimating just how much work goes into generating an audience, establishing it, maintaining it, and then actually growing it over time. Doug, you know, it wasn't easy to get, you know, your YouTube channel going, and you know, you're well over 10,000 now, correct?
Yeah, although these days I haven't been. So after Soul Finder came out, I basically I almost had to make a transition, because as you mentioned earlier, I started out criticizing the industry and going after the Dan Slotts and the Mark Wades and all these sorts of things. And at some point in time, I figured I kind of said what I needed to say. And it just, the timing worked out well because Soul Finder came out. And now that it's established, I really just need to maintain contact with that audience. And so sometimes people are like, you must have a YouTube channel. And I'm like, no, there's multiple social media platforms, and you have to figure out what works for you. And as long as you keep churning out good content and you're able to cultivate a relationship with people, whether it's email list or Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or whatever, there's many roads that can all lead to success. But a lot of times people try and put them in, they try and come up with a end all be all sort of a blueprint for how to do it. And I try to avoid that. But yeah, getting a YouTube audience, especially now after the multiple adpocalypses, it's very, very tough, and it's a grind, and you could burn out real fast if you're not careful.
Yeah, first, you know what I'm talking about. Just coming up with new ideas so you're not doing the same thing over and over on your channel, and you're keeping the audience that you do have satisfied with the content that they want, but you're growing out your content to where you're bringing new people in. It's not the easiest thing in the world. No,
I mean it's a grind. You have to kind of keep on it, or just ramble endlessly like I do. But you know, there's different approaches. I mean, I'm helping a writer at DC get a YouTube channel get going because he wants to do some promotion for his event coming up, and it's fine. It's just you know, there's an expectation of what are you trying to get here? Is this marketing? Is it you're trying to get money for yourself, or you want to occasionally talk to fans? What is your goal? You should know that going in. And for a lot of people I've talked to, the goal is, well, I'd like to start making, you know, a couple $1,000s a month. It's like, well, okay, you're in for a long road, pal, and a lot of work to get there. So, you know, maybe don't start if you think that's going to be tough. I mean, you know.
A full-time job to get up to that kind of revenue.
Yeah, and I do think that it's been I think some of the bigger names that's got channels that are up in the 75, 100,000 subscribers. I mean, they got there. They were fortunate to get there. That can't be easily replicated, as lots of people have found out. And you can't just, you know, copy that format and expect it's all going to come. Nor can you come in and kind of be the anti-channel and get that kind of number. You can't, you know, nobody's going to throw that kind of money at somebody who's running counter ops on things they hate. It just, you have to have something people want to listen to. And you also have to realize that sometimes those giant subscriber numbers, I mean, they're not necessarily translating to all those people are watching your videos and clicking on your ads. That's, you know, people tend to subscribe and then forget that they've subscribed. So there's a lot of factors people just need to know going in.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Brian, you're here and you reach your audience, but in a completely different way. You don't really have a YouTube channel. You're certainly on Twitter, and you have some of the finest memes I've ever seen, sir.
Oh, thank you.
But you know, really, it's your Patreon model that you've used to brand yourself and reach out to your audience and really give them what they want specifically.
Yeah. So my plan was always long haul. Like if anything happened to, like, say, my digital store, I had always something to fall back on. And I mentioned this to Perch earlier when Diamond stopped shutting down payments, and then, you know, they can't pay their publishers, and everyone's sitting here flailing out in desperation. I'm just like, oh, well, I'm still good. Because I had backup plans already in place just in case something catastrophic happened. So Yeah, my Patreon, we have like a Discord integrated into there, and I just built them a casino and a fishing pond. And I'm about to build them a Tamagotchi farm too. So, this is just the way we, engage with fans. We talk to them. We share memes in there, talk records, cars, sports, whatever you want. We have a comic little trading center in there for people to trade off of eBay and to share other crowdfunding stuff. So I just make sure that, the fans, when they're engaging with us and the team, that it's a community. And when you have that sense of community, they're more likely to stick around because, oh, hey, I have a buddy here, I have a friend here, or hey, that guy has that rare comic that I like, or that guy knows how to get this cool statue made or something, So I try to build a community rather than a fan base, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, but that didn't happen overnight. You had to work on that for years, right?
Oh, years. I had that Patreon starting in 2015 out of boredom, and then it was just supposed to be like me writing, and then eventually just grew and grew and grew and grew until what it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so these things don't just happen overnight. Like whether it be a YouTube channel or Doug had a successful blog for a long time. Now he's doing his own writing. You have a Patreon model. But you have to put a lot of work in these things for them to be successful. I know people have huge Facebook, pages and things like that, and those take a lot of time and effort to manage as well. I do want to say thank you very much to Everett Todd for the $2 super chat. Congratulations, Wes. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to everyone that's ever contributed to the Comics Aficionados and onto the channel. I certainly couldn't do it without the viewers or all the people that collaborate with me, and I think that's really the thing that separates my channel from a lot of other YouTube comic book content is the collaboration, and that is generally a discussion and views that maybe I don't agree with are absolutely welcome here, and I like to discuss them, and I think that's one of the things that makes the channel different. So thank you for everyone for being here for that. What were we on next? Oh, let's give away some comic books.
Yeah.
So we had 3 giveaways for the 5K subscriber Super Spectacular. We had a Discord giveaway, which was basically you went into my Discord server, you went to the 5K giveaway channel, and you wrote in 10 words or less why you think you would like a copy of Doug Ernst's Soul Finder Demons Match signed, or a copy of Black Hop's Hair Trigger signed by Tim Lim. Was that signed by Pellegrini as well?
I can get it signed by Pellegrini.
Might be signed by Pellegrini. We don't know. And so each winner is going to get a copy of each one of those. And Doug, you were the first one up. I sent you a list of all the people that wrote in with their submissions to win a copy of Soul Finder and Black Hops. Who is the winner?
The winner is Ash on Comics.
Ash on Comics. There you go. Congratulations to Ash on Comics. Of course, he's been on the channel. I do have him sign up on Twitter. So I will DM him, get his contact information. If he doesn't want to give it directly to me, I think he follows both of you guys and he can give it to you guys. But he is the proud winner of a signed copy of Soul Finder Demons Match and a signed copy, at least by Tim Lim, of Black Hop's Hair Trigger, and maybe Mark Pellegrini. We don't know. Congratulations to Ash on Comics.
Woohoo!
All right, Tim, are you ready for the next one? We have the Wheel of Destiny. You've already got it set up, correct?
I do. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I believe this is the YouTube winner.
This will be the YouTube winner. Can you see my screen?
I can. The Wheel of Destiny, folks.
Yeah,
we're about to spin it.
Yeah, we have those names over here on the side. I'm just going to hit click, and we're going to spin it. Here we go.
Perfect.
Wheel of morality. Turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn.
Oh, nice. So, Eric Allred, you are the winner of a signed copy of Soul Finder Demons Match and a signed copy of Black Hop's Hair Trigger. I will be getting in touch with you. I don't know if I follow you on Twitter. Hopefully we do, and I can DM you, and we can get that. We'll get that to you. Got to talk to Tim and all the guys, and we'll get that going. And we have another drawing, correct?
Yes. Let me pull up those names real quick. Here we go.
All right. All right, let me message Ash. You guys want to talk about comics while I do this?
Actually, real quick, anybody who's in the chat room today, if they want a copy of Soul Finder Demons Match, If they just put subject line Wes, then I'll knock off any sort of shipping costs for them if they want it. So they could email me at douglasernst@douglasernst.blog. And if it's just Wes 5K or something along those lines, then I won't charge them for shipping, even if they're international.
That's a steal right there.
Wow, that's amazing. That is very generous.
That's a great deal. You should definitely.
But this offer expires if someone internationally emails me 2 years from now. We'll figure something out, but please don't do that.
And
So what's the cover price of that book?
$15.
Boom. You're not going to get a better deal than that, especially if you're overseas, because I can tell you the shipping, here to the Philippines is astronomical.
Oh, don't remind me. I need to ship this box to Luigi. Sorry.
So
How's Luigi doing? I've been wanting some work from him, but you have your boy preoccupied.
Oh yes, he's working. He's got to get this fight scene done, and it's gnarly.
Yeah, he slipped in a little bit of work for me, but I feel like he's your bae, so occasionally I have to steal him from you.
Yeah. I don't mind sharing. Speaking of sharing, as soon as Perch shares with me his shipping address, I have about 50 of these rags, manga-sized, uncensored trade paperbacks that are going to head to his store.
Oh. Sorry, I'll do that now. Yes.
Uh-huh.
I opened up DMs to promote books. That was a mistake.
So, Doug, I believe this is for you. Ryan Wilson is saying, do you got a link to your product?
Sure. So if he just either Googles it, the Indiegogo page is still up. So it's Soulfinder Demons Match. And on my channel as well. Oh, there's a little feedback somewhere. On my channel as well, I promote stuff either on my Twitter account, my YouTube page, and then there's plenty of reviews out there right now on YouTube. So if you just Google Soulfinder Demons Match, you'll get some of the reviews. Just some guy had a pretty good review, a glowing review actually. So I'm a little biased there, but so yeah, just Soulfinder Demons Match, and you'll find it.
All right, so I'm putting a link into the Indiegogo campaign. Now you cannot order this product on the Indiegogo campaign because it's over, but you can go and see what he's selling there, and you can email him. Doug, can you put your email address into the comments as well?
Sure, it's douglasernst@douglasernst.blog, and then I'll throw that in there.
Perfect. So if you want to check out the product, there's a link to it as far as the Indiegogo, what they had the campaign, and if you want to order it from him, you will get it without shipping costs as long as you put Wes 5K sub in the subject line, and that's very generous. If you're overseas, you'll never get an offer like this again because that is absolutely astronomical to get stuff here. All right,
I have our names ready.
You got the next one? Awesome. Let's do the third drawing, and this is for the Twitter entries.
Can y'all see my screen?
Nope.
You can't.
I cannot.
Nope. Hold on.
Maybe because you still have that quote up.
Oh, no. I know why. Here we go. Let me do this. Share screen. Okay. Here we go. All right.
There it is.
All right, here we go.
The Wheel of Destiny is here. Let's get the third winner for the Twitter entrance for a signed copy of Soulfinder Demons Match and Black Hop's Hair Trigger.
I see Ash on Comics is here again, so we're gonna see.
If Ash wins, we'll spin it again.
Spinning.
All right, here we go.
Come on, Gregor.
Oh,
Gregor Black.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That's right. Always bet on black.
He actually specifically he messaged me when he found out about it. He's like, I need these comic books. A lot of people are having some issues with money and stuff right now. So it's awesome that he's going to get a couple of awesome comic books signed by the creators. Two of my wonderful guests here right now. And so Gregor Black is the third winner. And thank you to everyone who entered in for the drawings. And certainly thank you to Tim and Doug for helping me out, because I hate to break this to you. I'm in the Philippines. I'm not going to be able to ship these myself, but I will. Obviously, I will be paying for them.
And if these gentlemen could provide their email addresses too, that way we can send a tracking number as well. I'll mail mine out on Monday, and typically, like I was telling Wes before stream started, shipping is 7 to 10 business days, but at least you'll have peace of mind knowing that the books will be arriving pretty soon.
Perfect. I am going to message Gregor Black right now. Perch, do you have anything interesting to talk about right now?
Hey, I wanted to ask Perch a question.
Yeah, go for it.
What is the deal with you and Winnie the Pooh?
Accidental. So when I started this Twitter account, I just wanted something with a avatar on it. I had my shop account, I had my personal account with my actual name, and that was getting slammed by some disingenuous people. So I wanted to just start a simple account. So I went onto Google and I searched for cartoon character thinking, and there was a picture of Pooh kind of thinking, and I used it. And every time I've tried to move away from that avatar, people are like, what it doesn't make any sense now. We know you as this thing. So it's stuck. I would love to actually get rid of it because the amount of people are like, well, you're a furry in real life. It's like, no, it's just, this just happened. So I'm going to launch my shop here in, I was going to say late May, but whenever Washington decides to open up things again, and I'm going to merge the two together and just, trust that I'm not going to get bombed this time.
I wouldn't trust that.
There's no more mystery in the universe anymore for me.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the story behind it. Not a very exciting story, and lots of speculation. I'm trolling the Chinese and all kinds of stuff. I have a lot of friends who are Japanese and have spent time in Japan and family there. So they all think I'm using it as a protest against Japan or China because, of course, everybody hates. Anyway, no, it's just Google search. There you have it. Could have been Popeye, could have been anything.
The best part is if I want to make funny graphics about you, there are pictures of Winnie the Pooh out there drinking whiskey. There are pictures of Winnie the Pooh walking around with a surgical mask. Yeah. It's just perfect for me.
It is. No, it's worked out. I mean, if I had more time, my plan was I was going to draw a little cartoon character. Imagine if I had done that, it would have sucked. So we got the best result, I think.
All right, let me see if here it is. Douglas Ernst, there are your Soul Finder orders. If you're wanting the comic book, you put West 5K into the subject line. You are going to get that book at cover cost, $15, no shipping, whether you're domestic or overseas. And I'm going to leave that one up for a while for everybody, just in case they need to write it down. And like I said, that was very generous of you, Doug. Thank you very much.
There's been a lot of people that DMing me, and people talk about, their employers are belt tightening with the pandemic, or they've literally lost their jobs and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of people home, and as you mentioned earlier, people are catching up on comics, or they want to read comics or whatever. So if I can knock off a few bucks on shipping, then why not?
So Eodius Lee is asking, does it ship to Singapore?
Actually, there's weird rules now with certain parts of the world. They are actually not shipping right now. So I could try, but I can't promise. I know that one might not happen, at least for a little while, due to the pandemic. But I could try.
But if she messages you and tries to pay for that comic book, you will do everything that you can to get it to her, correct?
Yeah, there's a guy in Brazil. I've tried multiple times. There's been these bizarre postal situations where it got to within like a mile of his house, and then they decided because there was like one number was off and they knew like where he lived, they just sent it back to the States. So it could often be a mess. The other day on Thursday, he's like, it's here, it's back in town, the next one. And I was like, I'm not cheering until you actually get it. And then he emailed me this morning and he's like, it was a holy day yesterday, so I didn't get it yet. So I was like, yeah, see, let's just wait. But I spent like $150 trying to get this guy Soul Finder. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully he'll get it on Monday.
So here in the Philippines, obviously, I believe it's 85 or 80% Catholic. So the whole country shuts down for Holy Friday. And so it's been interesting, although everyone's quarantined anyway, but I couldn't go out if I wanted to. There'd be nowhere to go.
Did you not have internet for a week? I saw an update where you're like, no internet. I'll see you guys Saturday.
So 2 days ago, so I don't know if everyone knows this, on Friday, I will record 4 to 5 shows on Friday, and then on Saturday I do this show, and I record normally one before and one after. So Friday is my big recording day. On Thursday, I was actually getting ready to record the Geekspan show with Skip and Tosh, and my internet went out, and they said, and we called them up, and they said we will try to reset your internet, but if you don't get it, we will not be at your house until Saturday because of Good Friday, and it was not up. They showed up today and they said a branch fell down on my line, and that is why I did not have internet.
Ah, okay.
Bridge?
A branch, not a bridge.
Oh.
That's interesting. If it was a bridge, I would have understood it. But I am working right now to get a backup internet. There are 2 service providers in town, and I'm going to get another service provider. So just in case that ever happens again, I will have a backup plan, and then my kids can still stream Netflix because they are addicted to Pac-Man right now. But I think a lot of kids are streaming Netflix at the moment.
Wait,
what are your kids watching right now, Perch?
They went through a series of unfortunate events and like that a lot on Netflix. That's a show they enjoy. They watch a little bit of everything. I think what's weird is that we got Disney Plus because I've got 2 tiny kids and it's Disney content and everything else, but they ran very rapidly through kind of the core stuff they wanted to watch and have found very little else. And I've been surprised at the drop off. They don't go to it anymore. They go to Funimation quite a lot.
All right, so Just Pele, he was supposed to be here today, but he is having internet issues, but he is in the chat. He's saying, go and get more people to join the channel. I'm planning on a big vintage comic giveaway for 7,500 subscribers. At the pace we're going now, that might only be 2 or 3 months. So definitely, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Let people know about this because at 7,500, Just Pele is going to do some vintage comic giveaways. And he kind of told me what some of the comics might be, and they aren't like these are comics that you are definitely going to want. And also, when we get to 75, I'm going to do some like Amazon gift cards or something like that. So people, and I'm going to give them to overseas subscribers because obviously I didn't want to pay for the shipping to people in the or outside of the US because it was so expensive, and you just never know how much it's going to be.
Speaking about Just Pele, everyone in the chat, if you haven't seen it already, you need to see that video where Wes and Just Pele do a countdown of the top 10 biggest selling comic, like single issue comic book sales of all time for like auctions. I think the big surprise there is that Pele actually owned at one time every single item on that list. That was a fun video. It was like a horse race trying to determine who the top 3 would be.
Yeah, that was a great video to make. That took us like that original recording. I think was 28 minutes. I actually had to chop a bunch of it off. So there was actually even more nuggets and lots of great information that I actually had to trim off just to make the time management. But yeah, it's insane. Pele afterwards he told me not only did he own every one of those comics, he read every one of those original printings of those comics. He had his surgical gloves on and everything, and got to read them in their original condition.
Yeah, that was a great video, but I don't know. Maybe it's because of the quarantine. That was like the most excitement I had in the week was watching that and being like, oh man, that's one I thought was gonna be in the top 5, but it's actually in the bottom 5. Like, what are your top 5 gonna be? So
yeah,
great video.
Definitely expected Marvel Comics #1 to be up there in the top 5, and I believe it was at number 8. A little bit surprising. And Perch, you've been talking about this a lot. What is One Piece?
No, I mean One Piece is just it's a long running manga. It's incredibly successful. I think it's the highest selling book. If it not, it was maybe recently passed, but it's a long running manga title. There is an anime to it. It's ran in Shonen Jump. It's thousands and thousands of chapters, or what feels like it anyway. And no, it's good. It's I would say mostly kid friendly. I mean, my wife thinks I'm crazy for letting the 6-year-old watch it, but I mean it's fine. But that's parenting for you. So it's a good It's a good series. It's fun to check out.
All right, Tim, what's your recommendation on that? You're the manga expert the manga expert on the channel.
Not really.
Not really.
That's what he claims.
No, I'm not an expert at manga. I'm actually pretty new to all of this. Like I actually haven't been doing a deep dive into anime and manga except for the last 2 years, and even then I have such a scant knowledge. All I can recommend is if you're on Twitter, do not take what's his name? Rick don't take his advice for manga and anime. It's all not safe for work. So let's see, for children, the one I've been recommending is like Little Witch Academia on Netflix. That's a pretty good one. Obviously, My Hero Academia is a very popular one right now with young adults and teenagers and children as well. So you can't go wrong with those. The problem with a lot of anime and manga is that there are elements of it that can be considered risque for a lot of Western audiences. But if you can get past that, then they're pretty safe. Like, for example, I just finished one that I loved. It's called K-On!
Yes.
It's such a dumb premise. It's like 4 high school girls meet after school to play in a band. And I think they only play like 1 song a season. The rest of the time they're just goofing off. But it's innocuous, it's family friendly. Like, there's nothing in there that's weird. There's one joke about panties, like for one episode, like for a minute at the end, like she trips on stage and the whole audience laughs at her. But they don't show anything. It's like a 2-season arc, but that's really wholesome, very family friendly. So if you're on Netflix, it's called K-On! It's letter K-O-N ! It's great. I love it. It had a bittersweet ending, but I talked to one of my buddies and he said that his wife and 2 kids watch it and they love it. And I think his kids are 6 and 4 respectively. So that's one that's fresh on my mind.
Does that one get the Brian Ball seal of approval?
It does. K-On! Also on Netflix, Magical Madoka. That's a great series.
I think that's the one that Doug Ernst's wife recommended too.
Yes, it's very good. I've been using that to I've been studying that for my Sailor spinoff.
Perfect. Okay, so I do want to say thank you to Kenneth Dowling for the $10 super chat. Hi, fellas. The diamond situation hit me yesterday when my comic shop closed all its stores and is only mailing. I asked if this would happen. LOL. Here's support for the program. Thank you so much for the supporting the program. Obviously, we're all down in the dumps. There's no new comics going out there, but we are all binging on back issues and stuff like that, and we are going to give some great back issue recommendations if you want to support your LCS here later in the program. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Kenneth. Next up, Deadshot Dookie $9.99 super chat. Congrats on 5K subscribers. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means the world to us, and thank you for that very generous support for the channel. Is there another one? No, I think I got them all. And he does have a good name, but the best name on the channel is it Albino Thunderbuns?
Oh yeah.
You're not going to beat Albino Thunderbuns. So Tim, you're basically the manga expert on Thinking Critical, but I'm hearing rumors lately that you're not a manga expert.
No, I'm not.
No, not
like, my
at all.
manga collection's really small. Just in terms of individual volumes, I have to say I have probably less than 15. Oh, I take that back. I have less than 20 because like easily 14 of those are One Punch Man, and then the rest are single volumes I picked up. Like, I like Goblin Slayer, but that's not family friendly for sure. Nozaki-kun. I like a lot of slice of life type things. There's a great deal right now on Amazon. I just found it yesterday. Amazon, for select books, they actually, if you have an Amazon Prime account, they actually credited 99 cents into your account for Kindle downloads on some manga. So the other day I was watching Gleipnir on Netflix and I just thought, holy cow, this premise is crazy. But I was looking at the manga on Amazon and they said, you can get this book right now and use your 99-cent credit and just get the thing for free. So I actually got that. But no, I like it. I mean, I'll take any recommendations for anime or manga if there are any. Typically, I see the two as almost interchangeable because almost all the manga I own has an anime version, and it's interesting to just compare the quality and the translations between the two. They're virtually identical, but you learn a lot from comparing them.
Tim, did you see that Amazon Prime has a whole selection of 1980s and 90s anime now?
Yes, I saw that. I wish that their interface was better. I wish it was more like Netflix or Funimation, because on Prime it sucks. You can't really find anything until you scroll, and I don't think there's anime as a genre on Amazon Prime. You just have to go into the search function and just type in anime and just see
you
what
really
pops
gotta
up.
know what you're looking for. Scrolling through there, because I just rediscovered Project A on there, and I binged.
Oh, that's a great one, Project A. I remember that from the Sci-Fi Channel.
That's a classic, yeah.
So if people haven't watched that yet, they should be binging that on their quarantine.
It is not.
Oh, yeah.
It's like PG-13. There's some elements of it that are not. Well, it's not safe for work, but they're. It's like fan servicey or whatever. In the chat, someone is saying, "Oh, Everett Todd says Violet Evergarden." Tim, I have seen every episode of Violet Evergarden and the movies as well. That's really good, but that's like a tearjerker. So you have to be like in the right mindset to watch that stuff.
All right, so before we get back into the anime and manga discussion on the Comics Aficionados, I do want to say thank you very much to Comic Hound for the $9.99 super chat. Wes, congrats on 5K. I just read Legion of Superheroes #4 by Bendis. At least time on his contract is ticking with new content or without new content. Great discussion, guys. Stay well. Man, Bendis' Legion of Superheroes it's been a rough read. You've read it all, right, Perch?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this. I think this title, I mean, if you think about this, I think Hickman was being groomed to take over this book, and to compare the idea of what that would have been like to what we got is a sad it's a sad thought. that is. I mean, everybody has different tastes. I know that there's some fans of that book. I cannot stand it.
Oops, sorry. I think someone's doing laundry here. But yeah, it's absolutely terrible. But one thing we are getting during this quarantine is we're getting lots of Rick Remender, what could have been celebrations. That I think one of them was there was going to be a symbiote in Heat.
Yeah.
Well, Venom.
Yes. I thought that one sounded odd.
That sounded like an anime title, Symbiote and Heat.
I've been a pretty big proponent of Remender's ideas. He had a Justice League story that he proposed, and like an Uncanny X-Force spinoff and all that. It all sounded good. And this symbiote and Heat thing, I was like, that feels like it wasn't a winner to me. It was probably smart to pass on that one.
No, that could actually work.
Yeah,
wasn't that the premise of Species?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that could have worked. I'm not willing to dismiss it just yet. I mean, it sounded in how it was put in news articles and videos and things, it didn't sound right. But I mean, this idea that the symbiote needs to breed and so it's killing people to do so. I mean, sure, why not? I've seen lots of horror movies with that premise.
I mean, it could get really weird too, because like if it's in Heat and let's say the symbiote gets like Black Cat or Mary Jane, and then that could go into its own little.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh God.
Uh-oh. Do we have some fanfic coming from the Rags team?
Maybe.
I mean, let's be honest here. We can all close our eyes and quickly come up with all of us.
I've just come up with like 18 different ways this could go wrong.
Yeah. Like, I mean, this is not something you can do, and maybe they could do it as a Marvel Max series.
No, they wouldn't. They're too cowardly.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw what happened with Bat Dick.
Yeah, and I don't think Marvel's definitely not anywhere near as brave as DC to do Batwang. Same way they probably wouldn't do Wolverwang.
Right, which is crazy considering what they did with Jessica Jones in the very beginning. I know.
First issue, she's getting butt pounded by Luke Cage.
Gross.
Don't kink shame.
We've gone in several directions here all at once.
Yes. But this is definitely much more of a hentai theme because, well, you get into tentacle porn really fast with symbiote, horny symbiote.
The way we're passing the time in this quarantine,
yes,
always fun. I don't know. So I'm curious what you guys think in terms of if when things get started, whenever that moment is. What do you think the publishers are going to do here? Are they going to dump a bunch of comics on shops? Are they going to slowly trickle them back in? What's going to be the restraint from the companies in terms of getting the wheels going again? Or will there be any restraint? Because remember, a lot of comics are in boxes printed that can't be distributed. We've got at least 2 to 3 weeks stacked up.
I guess this can be a trickle because I think flooding the shelves would probably not be the best idea. I mean, from a financial point of view. So I would think that basically it's like time just picks up where it left off. At least that's, I don't know. That's what I'm assuming.
That's what I would hope.
That's what I would hope.
Well, I'm seeing something where, the publishers are all going to pull away from Diamond and start looking for other methods of distribution. I've already started to notice that a few other companies have, surprise, surprise, started opening up their own Patreon models, and
Antarctic Press did for sure.
Yep, and then you start seeing creators starting to do YouTubes, and more crowdfunding is going to come this way. So I think for a minute, distribution is just going to be all over the place until the industry decides to sit down, come together, and have at least one solid method, and then like a backup method of getting stuff out.
I have a question for Perch, because he seems to be in the know when it comes to just the nuts and bolts of industry stuff. So I have a friend who runs a pretty big comic convention in Texas, and he and I were having lunch yesterday. And his convention's not until August, but he already told me that he was thinking about canceling it, and he's really on the fence, and he's kind of a numbers guy, and we were looking at kind of pros and cons. And it was funny because we had this conversation, and then yesterday I heard this article where I think it was Bleeding Cool that said like, oh, an announcement will be made soon about San Diego Comic-Con, if that's going to be opened or closed. And it's this idea that what it boils down to is, he said, I know by August that this will all subside, but it's not necessarily the quarantine, it's the after effect and the ripples from the economy. Will people be willing to go to a convention? Will they have the money to spend, et cetera, et cetera? And there are just some things happening that defy conventional wisdom. For example, well, there's no money right now. Everyone's saving up. Wallets are tight. But then you look at like Todd McFarlane on Kickstarter, and he just broke $1 million
in like a day and a half.
In a day and a half. And then, for example, for Common America, we were honestly anticipating very, very low sales, because we expected most people to have migrated to Kickstarter who like us, and we expect that people who are Indiegogo loyalists, they essentially see us as traitors, and they're not going to back us on Indiegogo. And then you have the quarantine, so people are not going to be spending money. But lo and behold, we're actually like on track for having an estimate that's going to be very comparable to our Kickstarter campaign. So I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's also the fact that people who would have spent money at conventions, they have like a small disposable income that they could use for other things to kind of just pass the time during quarantine, or like stock up goodies for when the time passes. So I guess my question for you, Perch, is one, do you think that San Diego Comic-Con is going to close? And two, how do you think the market will look like in the following months after the quarantine is over?
Well, San Diego Comic-Con is going to close. I can call that. I mean, I definitely believe it. I've heard from a number of people who are already pulling out. There's no way that's going to happen. I think it's just impossible, unfortunately. I do think that there's this kind of strange ripple effect, and you hit upon it. I think fans who are consuming content have some disposable money, and they have nowhere to spend it. And so you're going to see this gap where people still want to kind of feed that habit or want to have comics. So they're going to order things, and you'll see on the fan level, people wanting to spend some cash over the next several months. I do think that maybe catches up with them if the economy has big longer term problems where, people wean themselves down. I mean, a lot of people were spending $80, $100 a month on comics. So that number will just shrink a little bit as they have nowhere to spend it. And then they'll just get used to spending their money other places. But there's a gap here where people can buy things. But the part that concerns me a little bit is the middle. The retailers can't sell content, or in many cases can't sell content. Some are still doing mail order business and so on. But that's going to take a hit. And then the creators are going to not necessarily have the money to jump on a plane, or companies won't be willing to send them on a plane to go to a convention. So conventions are probably in a dodgy state for at least 6 months, because the audience of retailers and guests are not going to be there. So they're going to have to convince the creators that, hey, you can come and sell commissions and you can get some business done at this convention. But if they don't have the disposable cash themselves to necessarily get there, and nobody's willing to fund it, then that gets to be, I think, a weird problem. The strange thing is, I mean, so this convention would be in Texas?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought it up about the flying thing, because that came up yesterday with the numbers. He said that like 90% of his guests live in either LA or New York.
Right.
And I didn't even think about that. He was like, yeah, so I mean, they're willing to come here, but it's also the idea that they're coming from areas that are heavily impacted by all of this happening. So if they, and I think his convention is 2 weeks after San Diego Comic-Con. So it's this idea of, well, crap. I mean, if that large one is going to cancel, then there's going to have a major effect in terms of how my show is going to be seen as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and there's multiple problems there. Like, people are going to be concerned, especially in those two regions. If they go, can they come back, or what is going to be any travel restrictions? The plane tickets are high. I mean, there's some bad effects in the economy in terms of just buying transportation right now because so few people are using it. It's not like the prices have fallen; it's gone the other direction in most cases. So there's an economic problem. It's weird because in Texas, business is likely to open up sooner than other parts of the country. And if the right stars align, it can be the San Diego Comic-Con is going to be canceled, and therefore there's a need for a convention. Here's a convention, and they could wind up benefiting from that. But it would require a lot of things to fall in place, and unfortunately, I think they'd have a real hard time getting creators there.
And that's the thing, is that where he's in that weird position, because right now, like I was telling Wes before he went live, I step outside, and if you were in a coma, you wouldn't even have known that there was anything going on. Like, every day I go to the park, and there's like tons of people. Well, not tons, but for a park, you're going to see at least 50 to 60 people walking around in like a 2-mile radius, and no one's wearing masks. The only time you notice that something is amiss is you can't go to a restaurant. Everyone's doing curbside. Yeah. But I go to Walmart. Every shelf is stocked. There's toilet paper. There's food. So it seems like just in this, we live in a relatively small area just south of Waco. If you didn't know better, looking at traffic patterns and looking at just how people walk around, seems like everyone's trying to open up for business. But I don't know how much of a predictor that is for a thing like a convention. I think the locals might show up, and I think that's what what he's banking on is what you were saying, is that it is a good time to come into a market that doesn't have any competition.
If he can,
guys, hold on.
Sorry,
we do have to say goodbye to Doug. I guess MJ is home, and he's gonna walk out on us. And thank you so much for joining us, Doug. I really appreciate it, and for the very generous offer for the viewers today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Did I?
No, you're still here.
Oh, I thought my mic was muted for a second there. But yeah, MJ just got back from the night shift, and she's going to bed in a few. So I'm gonna spend a few minutes with her before she zonks out. But thanks again for having me on, and congrats to all your success, Wes. I had a great time with everybody, and thanks to everyone who emailed me for a copy of Soul Finder. I will be in touch this weekend for sure.
And definitely tell her thank you very much from the whole team here, and for all of her work that she's doing. We know the medical professionals are on the front lines right now, and she's doing God's work.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks. See you guys. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Hey, real quick before you go, if you want Luigi to do a cover for you, hit me up. We'll make it happen.
Nice. All right, man. I'll be in touch.
All right, cool. Have a good one, guys.
Business getting done.
Yep. Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Sorry for interrupting.
No, but Tim, it's an interesting thing you're saying. I mean, so I think there will be pent-up demand. I think if he can run a show where he can rely on locals or people nearby and doesn't have as much dependency on people from out of state coming in, if he can create that kind of mix, then probably we'll have a very successful show. It's strange out there. I mean, I'm up here in Washington State. We were one of the first states to really have it, and our state has reacted very aggressively to closing things down and everything else. In some cases, you go to parks and things, and you see the same thing that you did. There, people are walking around, maybe a little nervous with each other, but nothing major. But you go to the grocery store, and it's a little bit, you clearly see evidence of plastic shields up between cashiers and other things. And but I was at Target yesterday, and it was the spookiest experience I've ever had. Everybody's walking around in masks and gas masks, and they're limiting people in the shop, and this woman's just walking down the aisle sobbing for no apparent reason. I mean, it was bizarre. And so I think about it like the psychological impact that is happening right now. People are kind of, we're busy debating and fighting over the politics of it, but forgetting about that, the psychological impact that's going to happen in some regions is going to last for years. It's insane what's going on.
And that's not even counting flare-ups.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. So how is it affecting you, Brian? Do you need the convention circuit to keep your networking and selling original works and things of that nature?
Me, no. I typically don't do conventions because I'm always busy. You'll hear me say this all the time. I have 3 jobs between my normal civilian job, the National Guard, and the comic book. I don't have time to do a lot of traveling. So WonderCon was going to be my last convention for the year. Now it looks like last year's San Diego Comic-Con will be my last convention for a long time.
Well, that's sad. I know, Tim, you and Mark do a lot on the convention circuit. Is this putting a cramp in your style, or you guys are going to be fine?
I think we'll be fine, because one thing I've done to kind of compensate for it is that I don't have my commissions list open, but what happened was I have a backlog of them. And so what's been happening is people who have been kind of hitting me up after some time, like, hey, I know you're between projects. Can you work on this and that? I've been doing that, and that makes up the bulk of it. I think the other thing that's helped too is that having 2 crowdfunding platforms, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, that's helped tremendously, because we're essentially kind of doubling on what we would be making normally. And it's funny because the convention circuit, it wasn't our bread and butter. We basically just did it as networking. We like them. We enjoy traveling. We like meeting people and going out to eat and stuff like that. So we use it as an opportunity to rub elbows and to just talk to people. So missing out on that, yeah, it kind of sucks, but it's also not a killer for us, though. I have several friends who are artists, and it is their bread and butter. So my heart goes out to them, and I feel sorry for them. But I've noticed that they've been doing things very similar to Brian in terms of making ends meet. A lot of them are opening Patreons. A lot of them are opening Gumroads. And so they're making do, which is good. And most of them are doing it by commission, which is really the best way to do it, because a commission, for people in the chat who have never gotten one, they seem expensive because they can go anywhere between $60 to $200 on average, but you're getting a piece of original art that's not duplicated, so you know it's handmade. And so for like a one-time expense for something that's going to last you a long time, it's actually a really good way of generating income for yourself. So a lot of my artist friends have gone by doing that. They opened up their own online stores. They're selling prints, basically everything they would normally do at a convention. And luckily, the Postal Service is still running. So it means that that's not stopping them from mailing things out.
So we do have a late addition to the Comics Aficionados this week. Pele, you were supposed to be here, but you arrived late. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. We had a little bit of a internet outage of sorts, I guess you could say. They had a scheduled service that they sent out an email, but I never read it. So that's what I get.
So how are you doing? How's your quarantine culture doing? Are you loading up on back issues? Or are you reading? Are you watching anime?
Anime? God, no. No, just reading. I read a lot of back issues this last week or so. Mostly filling orders, mostly fielding a lot of requests and stuff like that for back issues, and trying to buy collections while on the down low and avoiding the police and that kind of stuff. Because they really do take the quarantine thing seriously. So I'm like trying to stealthily make my way out to Blount County, while the cops are trying to get everybody that that are out, without having without going to get food and stuff like that. So what I have to do is I throw a couple of grocery bags in the back, and say, I was out getting groceries, and then take off, and go and grab a collection.
Black market comic buying. It's like the start in NASCAR whenever they would it would be.
I got Copperhead. I got Copperhead Road, blasting on the stereo. But
running with headlights out through back roads, trying to stay away from the cops.
Pele's got a couple
leggers,
cases of Shine in the back, so he has an excuse for being out. I'm just running Shine, fellas. I'm not getting comic books.
Yeah, something like that. But no, it's been great. I was telling people in the chat that our sales now are back to where they were pre-virus,
Wow, that's great.
at curbside and by delivery. It's pretty awesome. The people now are just, okay, well, you guys are still doing business. You're just taking requests, and and they tell us what they need, and we put it together for them, and we get a box together, charge them, and then either take it out by hand or that's been a little bit tricky too, but or delivering it by curbside while they're out, quote, getting their groceries. So it's worked out pretty well. A lot more legwork involved with it, but it's a challenge. It's fun. I mean, everybody wants their new comics and stuff like that, but we've always predominantly been a back issue comic shop anyway. So, or at least since I made the transition a few years back. So it's now the money's the same. It's just takes more work to get it, but I think that in the long run, it's going to pay dividends. So
I think it sounds like everybody's hustling right now.
So yeah, you got to hustle. You got to work harder during the times things are like this. It's either that or just roll over and die. And I've not invested my life into this to just die. So
yeah, Brian's got his hustle. Tim's got his hustle. I'm sure Perch is over there hustling too. What are you hustling, Perch?
I'm picking up a lot of spare jobs right now, so I'm doing a lot of things. I bought a shop. Which I mentioned last week, and now I just got to figure out how to close on it and when it can be open. So I'm hoping late May, June would be wonderful. But I'm just trying to prepare. There's a lot of stock out there you can get. There's a lot of things you can support, and no, I've been helping a lot of people behind the scenes. So if anybody needs help, throw it onto the pile. I will get back to you in a month.
All right, Perch. I do want to hear your thoughts on this, and then we'll basically wrap this up. This is from Alterna Comics. It says, due to news from Diamond that the potential earliest release date for new product will be in August, we have canceled all of our solicits with them. We will be moving forward with selling direct to readers and retailers for the foreseeable future via their alternaaccess.com. Have you heard that their Diamond is actually saying that maybe the earliest is going to be August?
I've heard that it could go until August. I didn't hear that the earliest is August. I haven't heard a definitive statement. I heard that they're projecting it in worst case scenarios, it's August. I also think, like we mentioned earlier, there's going to be some backlog of comics that need to get out that are in the warehouse that needs to go. So I think that's part of how that math is getting done. In June, maybe things start rolling. In July, comics starts beating out, and actual new product incoming is August. But I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of companies are going to be going toward looking outside of Diamond. DC stated that directly. I think lots of people are going to do that. It's going to start to look a little bit like it was back in the late 80s in terms of distribution. I feel like that's, at this point, contracts have been breached, so publishers can go explore their options. But I think the other thing that's happening with Diamond, and then I want to say this carefully, I'm not saying this is Alterna's case, but Diamond is also going to be pruning a lot of the smaller publishers that they were dealing with. So there's a lot of them that are on the fence already that Diamond is going to basically say, we don't have time for you now, come back next year. I don't believe that's Alterna's case or anything else, but I do believe that a lot of publishers, I've heard from some of them, are looking at it and saying, well, we probably need to get ahead of this because they're likely to cut us. And that's smart to do so.
Well, you might see Diamond going back to their old, 3,000 unit cutoff.
Yeah.
That they used to have, and technically they still do, but they just haven't enforced for a good number of years now.
Yeah, I think a lot of those rules are going to get enforced for pragmatic reasons as much as anything. But you're definitely going to see that happen, and any publisher is smart right now to look for alternatives.
Well, thank you very much for your perspective on that tweet. I just saw it came out. I'm assuming that's from Peter himself. And I think we had a great show today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the 5K celebration. We got to give away some great comic books. It sounds like Pele has got some vintage comics he's wanting to give out, for $7,500. And these aren't just normal comic books, right, Pele? This is good stuff, right?
Oh, it's one book, and it's I may be able to put another small book with it, but it's one book, and it's going to knock your socks off. And I think that whoever wins is going to be very happy. So go and get your buddies. Go get your buddies, and go get your buddies. Not that great, but it's going to be great. And go get your buddies. Get them on the channel. Go and stir some people up, because once we hit 7,500, I'm going to go live with this giveaway, and it's going to be nice. You guys are going to really enjoy it.
And also, I am going to do some Amazon gift cards because we had to limit this to U.S. people only because of the shipping costs. But the next time it will only be overseas subscribers, including Canada, things like that. People not in the U.S. because they weren't eligible this time, and we're going to do some gift cards because that way we don't have to pay shipping expenses. But that'll be for $7,500, probably here in a couple 3 months, hopefully. With the way the channel's going right now, I want to say thank you to everybody, and let's give everyone some quarantine recommendations. Brian, what should people be binging as far as anime right now?
Project A-Co, Dominion Tank Police, the Guyver, Grand Blue Fantasy. The animation turned out to be pretty cool. Magical Madoka on Netflix. K-On! The Slayers, if you get a chance to actually find the streaming version of that. My old go-to is the Macross series, the Japanese. So you're gonna have like the original Macross, Super Dimensional Cavalry Southern Cross, and Genesis Climber Muspidea. Those are my three favorite shows from when I was a kid, but also known as Robotech seasons 1, 2, and 3. So if you're bored, that should take you through most of the quarantine.
Perfect. And if people haven't been reading rags, but they like the cut of your jib here on the show, can they still buy these comics? Are they still shipping out?
Our Patreon version is still shipping out. We haven't stopped, and we won't stop until we're dead. But in the meantime, if you can't get it at your shop, you can just message me, and I'll shoot some out to you. I got these little manga-sized stuff that I was bringing to WonderCon as like giveaways for the "Where's Brian at WonderCon" thing I was playing with my Patreon. So just hit me up, shoot me a DM, and we'll work something out. See if we can can't get something shipped to you. It'll be a collection of issues 0 through 6.
Boom! So people be caught up for when rags finally starts getting shipped out and into comic shops again. Correct?
Correct.
Boom! Gets no better than that. All right, Tim. What do you recommend people binge right now as far as comics, manga, anime? What do you recommend?
It's just a mixed bag. I'll echo K-On! Again. One Punch Man is a perennial favorite. My Hero Academia, I know like I'm gonna get slaughtered by this, but most people like it. For me, it's just something I watch to pass the time and just to get caught up on some of the characters, so at least I know what people are talking about. That's a really good one. Like I said, I have pretty eclectic taste, like Slice of Life. I like Darling in the Franxx. Anything by Trigger, so that includes Kill la Kill, Little Witch Academia. As far as reading material goes, all the manga versions of that are good. Read Rags, read Punchline. I have Common America up on Indiegogo right now. That is going to be shipping in, it's going to end in 19 days, and we're going to start shipping the moment funding clears through, which is typically 7 days or less. And like I said at the beginning of the show, everything is already bag boarded and put in boxes. So all we have to do is just put the shipping labels on top of them and then send them out. I will announce right now on the show that we are going to offer, it was one thing that we could not do for the previous campaign, but we are going to offer a tier where you can get everything. So if you want a body pillow, if you want a head sketch with it, if you want the standee, I am going to open a tier on Monday that incorporates all of that. It's going to be well pricey for sure, but just a heads up for people listening in the chat who are interested, they can get that on Monday when we open that up.
Wow. Perfect. That's an exclusive right here on Thinking Critical. Thank you so much for giving us that, Tim, and great recommendations. All right, who's next? Pele, what should people be binging right now?
I'm going to make a recommendation that probably is not as interesting as some people think, but is really important. Go read your back issues that you have in that box that you've not caught up to yet. You know, everybody's got that like short box, long box, whatever of books that they bought and they haven't gotten around to them yet. Go ahead and read them. Go ahead and get caught up on that. This is the perfect time to do it. You don't have anything else to do, and you always put it off to the point where you end up never reading them to begin with, and just put them with the rest of your collection. Go ahead and get caught up. Go ahead and get everything read that you wanted to read. Go read some books that you always have put to the side, that you never really got to. Don't forget that stuff. Go ahead and read it now. It may give you a spark to continue on with the series that's ongoing right now, or may make you go and get cause you to be interested in another series that one of the other characters is attached to. So just do that, because that's what I've been doing, getting caught up on my back issues, and at least you'll have some, at least you'll be killing two birds with one stone.
All right, Everett Todd saying he doesn't even have a box. That's crazy.
Never
But
knew
albino
anyone.
thunder
What?
buns. I don't know how I got a box. Albino thunder buns, the best name in YouTube, saying here's a trilogy of sorts. Jeff Johns' Green Lantern Rebirth, Sinestro Corps War, and Blackest Night. I could not echo that more, even more than him. That is an amazing trilogy. It should be a movie, and it's got some of the best comic book art in modern comics that you'll ever see. I believe it's Ivan Rice is on Blackest Night, and then Jeff Johns did Green Lantern Rebirth and Sinestro Corps War. Just beautiful comics, great trilogy of stories, and definitely echo that one. If you haven't read that, you will love Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps after reading that trilogy. Oh, all right, Doc. What do you recommending people binge while we're on our quarantine?
You know what? I'm going to go off of X-Men for this time. I'm not going to recommend anything because hey, look, I've been recommending different X-Men stuff for a while. So I'm going to recommend, if you can find them in the singles, do that because they're great books. Stormwatch number 37 through 50 of volume 1 and 1 through 12 of volume 2, which is the Warren Ellis run on it. It's also available as 5 trade paperbacks. So I highly recommend that. All of Wildcats volume 2. It started with Scott Lobdell, and then it became Joe Casey, and then Wildcats version 3.0, which was 24 issues as well. Also Joe Casey and Dustin Gwynn. And I mean, we've already recommended Punchline and Rags, and I also recommend if you're already on Patreon and you're about to sign up for Brian and Team Rags, go on there and also sign up for Brett Booth's. He's getting ready to launch his upcoming, he has 2 different creator-owned books, and I think one of them's about ready to go.
Yeah, it's close.
There you go. Thank you very much, Doc. Chillmonger's recommending Quadrilogy War of Kings. Dominic Dion Powell is recommending Rags is a good series. Are you crazy? That is a great series, son. What are you talking about? And Monster, Twin Star Exorcist, Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter, Sailor Moon, Middle West, Michael Turner's Fathom, JSA, JLAO, Hawkman, The Max, and Gen 13. There we go. And Tevi is saying that Dan Jurgens' Action Comics, Peter J. Tomasi's Superman, and then Peter Tomasi's Super Sons is a trilogy. Man, that is like 25 stories. That is not a trilogy. That is 3 lines of comic books, Tevi. You're crazy. You're a madman, and that's why I love you. All right, Perch, what are you recommending this week?
Look, I think if people are trapped inside, they want a nice long run of things. So something that's 100 issues or more. Going into the back issues, Invincible is a good one. That's a classic superhero book by Robert Kirkman. They've got a long, long run. You've got Ed Brubaker's run on Captain America is always a good one to go to. Mark Wolfman's Teen Titans way back in the day. Garth Ennis' Punisher, 100 Bullets is another one that's just, these are good long runs. Fables, you're talking about 100 plus issues of comics that you can just dig into for a long period of time. Definitely everything that's mentioned before. I'm fond of Hickman's Avengers run, although it is depressing and weird in various cases and definitely skips around. But you can sit down and you can have a really long read. I also want to, definitely the guests on the panel here, Tim, with everything that he does, and Rags for sure. I want to say Rags gave a free copy to a first responder, which was awesome. She loved it, and that's just cool stuff that we're doing for each other. So a lot of good content out there. And then, of course, if you want to go to One Piece, I keep saying that over and over, but that is a $20 billion property. If it's put in perspective, Batman is, I think, $28 billion in worth. So you're talking about a major entertainment property out there that gives you thousands of hours of reading or watching, whatever you're into, and that stuff's just crazy. So a lot of good content out there to watch and look at.
So you really
Doctor's about to get a whole lot more too. She doesn't even know it.
Oh wow, yeah, she was really, really fond of it, and she's been in a very tough spot where she's working right now. So I know she appreciated it immensely.
Well, certainly good on you, Brian. Way to support the people. I know you're out and you might be called up anytime, and we definitely need to look out for each other. So thank you very much for doing that. And it sounds like there's more thank yous on the way from those teams at RAG. So
we started selling masks or face covers. I don't really want to call them masks. We started doing face covers, so about to ship a couple more out to her here as soon as they arrive at my house.
Perfect. Also, if people want custom masks, they can go to your was it newageninja.com?
newageninjacore.com.
Okay. Sorry, I was a little off there, but go to the site. You might see a custom face mask that you want. Yodius Lee is recommending Super Sons for Kids. Absolutely. Okay, Dominic, you already recommended, buddy. Eric Breen saying he read Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus 3 in 2 days, about to start Volume 4. Man, that is a lot of reading, son. What's that? Eric Breen's like 55. My bad. That is a lot of comic books, sir. Black Cat is recommending Nightwing Untouchables. That is a great story. Nightwing Bleeding Edge, another great story. Batman Death in the Family. Just read that with Josh for the video that we made. And for Anyway, you can't go wrong with Death Note. We got any more in here? Albino Thunderbuns, I'll let you be in here again. I recommend Killer Be Killed by Brubaker, Phillips, and Brightweiser. Absolutely, that's a great comic book. So if money is tight and maybe you can't afford to go and get some back issues, but you ran out of material, right now you can download the Marvel Unlimited app. You do not need to go into it and give any contact information as far as an email or a credit card or whatever. You go in there, you open the app, there's a button that says free comics, you hit that. Right now you can read the Captain America Winter Soldier storyline, which is absolutely amazing. You can read Civil War, which is a fantastic story. You can read Donny Cates's Thanos Win story arc. That's another excellent one. There's some really cool stuff on there right now that is available for free. You don't even need to give your information to sign up and pay for anything. So if you go and check out that Marvel Unlimited app, of course, you cannot download those comics and read them offline. You have to read them while you're online. But if you don't have money and if you have some time to read some Marvel comics, they have some great stuff available for free right now. Those are my recommendations. I just finished up The Winter Soldier, and that was like 3 thumbs up. That's one of the best Captain America stories I've ever read in my life.
Yeah. I want to make a recommendation on that. Go ahead and read like series that you always loved but never got to get the back issues on that while the free app is going, because you can read like the whole Amazing Spider-Man. You can read like the original series Amazing Spider-Man. You can read all of these awesome Tales of Suspense and Tales to Astonish and all that kind of stuff. It just binge on it because it's such amazing reading and the art is so beautiful. Especially the old iconic Kirby and Ditko artwork. Stunning stuff.
Yeah. Using that to get the books that you just can't afford otherwise.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is on the screen is the e-commerce site for Brian and his team, newageninjacore.com. You can go get some of those custom face masks, and he's got a lot of great products in as well as rags and things like that. Yodius Lee is also saying Gotham Knights, Batman Robin by Grant Morrison, Star Wars EU material, Batman New 52, and Spider-Man Blue are my favorites. All right. Kenneth Dowling is recommending Court of Owls Volume 1 and 2, The Long Halloween, and Batman Year 1. If you like The Long Halloween, I just recorded a video with Josh and Nalo talking about The Long Halloween and the sequel, Dark Victory, and it was amazing. You guys are going to love it. Should be available on Wednesday.
Somebody else also had, like Brian with a Y, he said the original Exiles run. And you know what? If you want 100 issues straight, that's all relatively cheap. You can probably pick them all up for mostly out of a dollar bin. Good pickup.
Well, there you go. That will do it for us today. Thank you all for joining me. Really appreciate all the support of the channel. We finally made it to 5K, but we're moving onward and upward. We're not stopping here, and we're going to hit 7,500, 10K, and hopefully we'll keep growing from there. Thank you all the guests, and congratulations to the winners. Thank you all so much. Salamat po. I'm out.
Bye.
Have a great